So I will start from where we stopped last. And in the last class, we started phonetics and phonology, and we discussed the definition of phonetics and phonology, and we also saw the differences and similarities in this definition. And we have seen that both phonetics and phonology, they are the scientific studies of human speech sound, but the difference is phonology deals with sound patterning, and because of that phonology is more specific than phonetics, because in phonetics we study human speech sounds that is used in different languages across the globe, but both are the theoretical context. So it is not like a course in spoken English. So when we study phonetics and phonology, we are looking beyond that. We are looking at how sounds they are they are structured, how they are produced, how they are perceived. So the nature of the sounds, their classifications, all such things we study under phonetics and phonology. And with this interesting anecdote by George Bernard Shaw, we have seen the inadequacies of English writing system. But more importantly, this also focuses on one difference that we can notice, that English writing system is different from English sound system. So we need to take English letters separately and English sound separately. We also looked at the sound producing system and the role of larynx. And larynx is also known as the voice box or Adam's apple. And above larynx, we have three filters. First is pharynx. Pharynx is a tube. Then oral cavity, that is your mouth, and nasal cavity. These three filters are there. Now, because of these three filters, we can produce different sounds, or the sounds that we produce, we perceive them differently because of these filters. So each organ in the mouth, it has some special role to play. And tongue is quite flexible in our mouth, and tongue is an important organ when we produce vowel and consonant. Also the role of the teeth and lips, uh, that is also important, that we will see. Then nasal cavity, nasalized a sound. So all such things we will look at. And this is the enlarged view of larynx we have seen. And the important information here is that the space between vocal folds is known as glottis. Now this space is important because through this space air passes. So and there are various stages of vocal folds. Now you can see there are four stages of vocal fold. Now one is voiceless, another is voiced, next one is whisper, and next one is murmur. So these type of sounds we can make. Now voiceless. Do not confuse voiceless with silent. Voiceless is not a synonym of silent here. It shows the glottal states. Now when the vocal folds are pulled apart, now something is pulled apart, that means it is wide open and there is enough space for air to pass. So air is coming from your lungs and it is passing through the glottis. Now this is quite a good space when the vocal folds are pulled apart and air moves. Air moves with no obstruction. So we know what is obstruction, and we know what is a free flow. So air can free flow. For example, if like in this state my air is free flowing, and if I put my hand like this, then This is an obstruction. If I put my fingers like this, then still some obstruction is there. So you can treat it like this, that when there is a free airflow like this, now uh, air is flowing freely. But when there is something that is blocking the air, that is known as the obstruction. So when there are certain sounds in this state, in this glottal state, when vocal folds are pulled apart, so like this is like these are two vocal folds that you have. Now you can see like they are not pulled apart, they are close together. Now this state is your pulled apart space. So you can see that if it is pulled apart, then the air can flow freely from here. But when it is like this, then it is close together. So these two states are there. One is pulled apart, another one is close together. For close together, though there is some space, close together doesn't mean that it is completely closed. So you need to remember this thing. It is not completely closed, but close together, and there is some space. You can see here there is some space. So these type of sounds, when your vocal fold here is like this, then such type of sounds are voiced sound. And when your vocal fold is pulled apart, then the sound is voiceless sound. Then whisper. Now you can see that anterior close together. Anterior is the front part. Then this anterior is close together, but here it is posterior, they are apart. This stage is for whisper. We also know how to whisper. And we have also breathy voice, that is a murmur. Let's say you are climbing a mountain, and then you are speaking, you are climbing stairs and you are speaking. So during that time, or you are working, you are in some physical work, you are doing some physical work, and then you are speaking, then during that time your voice is breathy voice, and that is also known as murmur. So these four glottal states we have. We can't see through our naked eyes, because this larynx is in your throat here, but these images, they very nicely represent what is going on in your throat, in your larynx. So you have 4 stages. You need to remember these 4 stages, and try to also draw the diagrams like this, not exactly with that uh, exactness, but something like that, that there should look like glottal states. They should look like the structure of the larynx. So you need to practice it, but more importantly, you need to understand that what is happening in the vocal folds. So these 4 stages are there. Now there are certain terminologies uh, which are associated with phonetics and phonology. And what are these terminologies? One is stress. Now here we are not talking about the stress that we have in our life. That is not the point. Here in phonetics and phonology, stress has some different meaning. The relative strength of a syllable. So you have a syllable, and we will study in detail the structure of a syllable. But here I will give you one example. When I say play, and if I ask how many syllables are there, there is only one syllable, play. But when I say playing, then how many syllables? There are 2 syllables. So the way you speak English, the way you pronounce a word naturally, that also shows how many syllables are there in a word. For example, if I say unhappy, now how will you say unhappy? So there are 3 syllables, unhappy. Fine, unhappy. If you say happy, then ha and p, there are 2 syllables. If you say boy, there is only one syllable. But if you say boyish, then there are 2 syllables here. If you say meaning, then there are 2 syllables. Let's say in the word phonetics, fine. Phonetics, you have phonetics, you have three syllable. Now, when the word is phonology, you have four syllable phonology. So likewise, when you speak a word and the way you speak it, it gives an insight that how many syllables are there in a word. Now, these syllables, let's say in a word when there are more than one syllables, like happy. Now, if I say happy, you know that it has two syllables, but when we want to check the relative strength of a syllable, and if I say happy, then you will notice that the first syllable has more strength. Ha has more strength than the p. So happy, happy. So you know that the first syllable is stressed. So when in a word you have more than one syllable, and out of those syllables, any one is more stressed, that is that gets the primary stress, and that is the definition of stress, that the relative strength of a syllable, more strength. So primary stress, secondary stress. Primary is like more strength, secondary is lesser than the primary. So you have a word like academy. Academy is a word, you know, academy, that is a word. And when I say academic, now there is a difference between the pronunciation. Academy, here academy. So ca is getting more stress. But when I say academic, then da is getting more stress. So when you give appropriate stress to a syllable in a word, then your pronunciation will automatically become good. So academy, ca is stress, but academic, da is stress. So this is stress, and generally in English each word is stressed. If there is a monosyllabic word, like one syllabic word like boy, then obviously there is one syllable and that syllable is stress. So in a sentence, generally content words are stressed. And which are content words? Your verbs, your adverbs, adjectives, they are content words. And functional words, they are not stressed, like articles, determiners, pronouns, they are not stressed. So this is a thing that you need to remember now. We will discuss all such things in detail as well. And intonation. Now, what is intonation? The use of the pitch of the voice to convey meaning. Now, you are raising your pitch, you are lowering your pitch. So high pitch, low pitch, that you can do. So when you use your pitch and the meaning is changed, that is the work of intonation. For example, you are coming. If I say you are coming, then it's like a different pitch I am using. You are coming. Now there's a change in the pitch. I am saying you are coming, but it is in the form of as if I am asking a question, are you coming? So here it's you have this rising intonation. You are coming. It's a rising. You are coming. So it's a rising intonation, and though I am using a declarative sentence, you are coming, but the meaning is, are you coming? So here you can see how this intonation, how the use of pitch changes the meaning of an utterance, of a statement. So this is how intonation is important, and we will look at this intonation and the use of pitch of the voice to convey meaning differently. Another example related to intonation, I would like to give, that is, there is a word like really. So like really, it's in the falling intonation, really, falling tone, really. And if I say really, so there is a surprise in it. Really, like you are saying something, let's say you are saying something irritating, and I say really. That means this is like what you are saying is real. Like why you are saying this, and you say something, and I say really. Then you can find like there is a falling rising. Really, that type of pitch is there. So the meaning is changed. Here it's a surprise. Really, it's a surprise, and really, it's like a matter of fact. And is it real? That is. So these two terms are important, and we will discuss these terms in future. Accent. Now this is another term. Now accent is the way people use language, the way people pronounce it. And we know that different people have different accent. The way you speak English, the way I speak English is not the way someone who is in US speaks, someone who is in UK speaks. So this is a difference. This is a difference, and why this difference is there? Because of accent. So the way a North Indian speaks English is not the way a South Indian speaks English. Because when we speak English, we have our mother tongue influences. So my mother tongue is Hindi. There is a possibility that your mother tongue is Dogri or Kashmiri or Bhadarwai or Saraji. So there are differences, and we have this mother tongue influence as well on our English language. So language pronounced differently by people from different geographical places, from different social classes, of different education background. So educational background, that means the way I speak English is not the way someone who is in 10th standard will speak. So education and educational background, it also plays an important role, not only with English but other. The way you speak Dogri or Hindi or Saraji or Kashmiri is not the way a driver speaks. So you know there is a difference in which a driver speaks, and there is a difference the way you speak. So you have this is because of the accent. We have different accent. Certain students, they try to copy US accent, they try to copy UK accent. So you can copy, but there is one accent that is also known as neutral accent. And what does it mean by a neutral accent? Neutral accent means that when you speak, the person is not able to identify your nationality. The person is not able to find out from which place do you belong. That type of accent is known as neutral accent. So nowadays, neutral accent is considered quite important because it does not tell about your social class, it does not tell about your educational background, it does not tell about your geographical place of birth. So neutral accent is the best one in the present scenario. Now many people, they confuse accent with dialect, but they are quite different. In accent, we do not have any change in vocabulary, we do not have any change in grammar, we do not have any change in word order. There is only change in the way you pronounce certain words. That is the only change. In dialects, there is a variety of language which is different from others, not just in pronunciation. So you have four things which are different. Pronunciation is one, as well as you have vocabulary, you have grammar, and you have word order. Now, there are different vocabulary because I worked on the dialects of Dogri language, and like there is a word like munda. Now, munda means boy. So, munda, like Jammu people, they will say munda for a boy, but there is a possibility that in the Pahadi Dogri they will call it Jagat. So now Jagat is like again a boy. So this vocabulary change, Jagat is altogether a new word and Munda is another word. Munda you also find in Punjabi language. So this vocabulary change you have uh, and where do you have this type of vocabulary change? In different dialects. Sometimes word orders are also different, and sometimes there is also a change in the grammar. So dialect is dialect is a different thing, and accent is a different thing. Accent is only limited to pronunciation, but dialect includes pronunciation as well as vocabulary, grammar, and word order that you need to remember. Now we have a term like received pronunciation. In abbreviated form, it is known as RP. Now what is RP here? RP is received pronunciation. Now what is received? We are talking about a specific accent. We are talking about a specific accent used by most announcers and news readers on BBC. Now, BBC is a media company and British Broadcasting Corporation. It is the full form. And the announcers, the news readers, they use a specific kind of accent. If you go to the news channel, specifically BBC, and once you hear BBC news readers and announcers, then you will find it quite difficult to catch all the thing what they are saying. Why is it so? Because our ears are not tuned to receive pronunciation. You will find very less difficulty or no difficulty when you watch Hollywood movies. And why is it so? Because our ears are tuned to Hollywood movies. We won't find any difficulty once we watch any Hollywood movie. But when you are listening to a pop song, when you are listening to uh, a rap song, then definitely you may find a problem in understanding, because lots of music is also going on, and sometimes certain words are not pronounced completely. So because of that, there is a problem. So similarly, once you hear BBC News by the announcers and news readers, you will find certain difficulty. So there was time when BBC pronunciation was considered the good pronunciation that is to be followed by all. But now this is not the case. So that type of pronunciation is known as received pronunciation. In short, you can say RP. Now, when we study phonetics and phonology, particularly when we study English phonology, then it is also important to know the difference between these terms. What is England, what is Britain, and what is United Kingdom. Now there is a very significant difference in these terminologies. Now let's look at what is the difference. England is a country like India, and London is the capital of England. So England is not larger than the Rajasthan. You can consider like the geographical area of England is like the Rajasthan state that we have in India. So this is like England is a country and London is the capital of India. Like like India, like you have a term like India. So similarly, you have a term like England for a country. But when we use Britain, then the meaning is Britain is an area that consists of England and the country of Welsh. So now again, there is an extension. It has two things, England and Welsh. Fine. In Britain you have. Then you have a Great Britain. Then you also include Scotland. So Great Britain is the name of the island that is home to the countries of England, Welsh, and Scotland. So now you have three countries here. In Britain you have two, and in England you have only one. And when you talk about United Kingdom, then United Kingdom is a country that is a union of countries on the island of Great Britain, along with the country of Northern Ireland, which shares the island of Ireland with the Republic of Ireland. So the Republic of Ireland is a separate country that is not the part of UK. London is also the capital of the UK. So this is like when you talk about UK, then you can consider like, okay, England, Welsh, Scotland, they are there, and their capital is also London. They are different countries though, but Republic of Ireland is altogether a different separate country, and it's not the part of the UK. So this is the thing that you need to understand, that these terminologies we use and how they are different from each other. So I stop here, and if you have any doubt or if you have any question, you can raise your question and doubt. I'd be happy to answer.